Hello, air signs. Welcome to Cancer season. As we move into Cancer season, we are leaving Gemini season. So we are moving from an air element season into a water element season. For those of you who are air element identified, this is a season that is a kind of continuation of what may have been emerging over the last couple of weeks when it comes to your personal energy. I think a lot of you in Gemini season felt an increase of personal energy or opportunities for personal growth. And now, as we're moving into Cancer season, a lot of you are trying to integrate this new energy and put it to work in some new ways. There's a lot of influence in the areas of work throughout Cancer season for the air signs. Work can include all kinds of things, definitely your jobs, your labor, your responsibilities, the work of taking care of a body, living on Earth, which is constant, the work of tending to family, the work of taking care of the environment and the world, your careers, your vocations, and of course, resourcing yourself. However you might think about resources or taking care of your material needs in the material world, these are areas of focus that are going to come to the top of the pile for Cancer season. Cancer season begins and ends with two full moons. So we have two full moons in Capricorn, which is somewhat unusual. We usually just have one full moon per season. But these full moons are amplifying a kind of sense of finishing a long-term period of growth and transformation that everyone in their own ways has been going through over the last 15 years. This year, a lot of people are feeling the sensation that certain processes or behaviors or ways of being or experiences just are not calling for the same kinds of energies and attitudes. They need something else. For the air signs, I'm going to say that you are coming to the end of a pretty long period of time in which many of you were focused in some really deep and internal ways on restructuring your psychology and your inner worlds. This definitely can include relationships, but it would be the elements of relationships that are the most intimate, the most vulnerable. Often these are the relationships that we have with our family members and intimate partners, as well as the realms of relationship that exist below the surface with probably a lot of different people that feel more complex, that maybe feel karmic or energetic, that require us to work through insecurities and doubts and needs and navigate the complexities of communicating around really important and sometimes awkward issues like money or power or sex or endings or things like that. In Cancer season this year, a lot of you are feeling how far you've come in these areas of personal process and growth. I think that many of you are sensing that you are ready to emerge in some new ways. What has been calling you into spaces that are more private, internal, maybe even introverted or introspective, where you may have felt that your energy just didn't want to move out as much. Now that's shifting. A lot of you are feeling compelled to shift your situation. Some of you might be thinking about new creative projects, new paths in life, new ways that you are orienting and reorienting around your body, your identity, how you put yourself out into the world, and what it is that you want to express. So this season is an opportunity for you to feel into the ways that you have been restructuring and reorganizing your inner landscape, to take stock of the lessons that you've learned about intimacy, vulnerability, and psychology, and apply them in ways that allow you to move out into the world more courageously and confidently, and also to start to significantly change elements of your life and or your personal expression that will allow you to take up more and different kinds of space, to be differently relational, maybe to experience collaboration, partnership, and relationship in some new and different ways. The first week and a half or so of Cancer season, from the solstice through July 5th and the new moon in Cancer, brings a lot of emphasis for the air signs into the practical, the mundane, and the material. But as we get into the month of July, your social realms start to heat up, and it feels like there are some new considerations in relationships that are pulling focus towards them. Conversations may feel a little bit more intense at this time. I think a lot of you are very passionate about what it is that you're talking about. There may be new friends or new connections that you are talking with, or there may be ways that you want to shift the tone of the conversations that you've been having. And it feels like important new areas of growth and development really come onto the table. This is also a period of time that a lot of you are feeling the sense of the end of some kind of process and a readiness to transform. I want to encourage you to be patient. This process still has another year to a year and a half to complete. By the time we get out of 2025 and into 2026, you're going to be so ready for whatever this next chapter is. But over the course of the next year and a half, there are still some negotiations and considerations, especially when it comes to the material realm, that really need you to be patient, to take your time, and also to work in ways that are more intuitive than they are necessarily logical or linear. Air as an element likes information. A lot of you are, I'm not going to say you're not intuitive. All elements can be very intuitive, but the air element likes to work with information. And a lot of you might sometimes feel a gap between your logic and the ways that you can mentally work things out and your intuition or your emotionality, which sometimes doesn't make any sense at all, because our intuitive and emotional bodies give us information that comes from different places. The feeling that I have for you is that in the ways that you are working to restructure your life and material existence right now, whether that has to do with your jobs, your work, your labor, your money and resources, or how you take care of your health and environment, it is really important that you are tuning in emotionally, energetically, and intuitively, and that you are taking the time to make sure that your mind, body, spirit connection is coherent. Don't rush forward with projects just if they make sense on an informational or cognitive level. Wait until you have a green light from your body, from your heart, where you feel on a holistic level a sense of readiness to proceed. If you don't feel that yet, it's okay to take time. You have a year and a half of process. You want to take this time to make sure that on all levels, you are feeling good about whatever these next steps are that you're trying to make. And of course, as you are processing and working it out for yourself, the world is worlding and life is lifing, and there is so much changing in our environment, in our collective atmosphere, geopolitically, societally, etc. And so you also want to be available to be responsive to how the world is shifting around you. Everyone is going through big collective shifts right now that by the beginning of 2026, we're going to see individuals, communities, and nations and society in general taking really different stances in certain ways. I think that there's a lot of shifting that's happening on multiple levels right now that might be harder to see because we're in a time of upheaval and disruption. It's very important for all of us, and especially for air signs, to give the space and the time that is necessary to make sure, again, that there is integration and coherence on an embodied level. So as you're looking at the changes that you want for your life, or these next steps, or you're feeling the ways that you are changing, breathe. Take time. Know that everything is changing around you and you are part of this change. And the more that you can participate in ways that are present, that are attuned, that are emotionally response able, the more you can contribute to the larger changes in the world in beneficial and healing ways. Towards the middle of July, as we get to the end of Cancer season, there is a lot of energy starting to build up in the atmosphere. Things feel accelerated and potentially combustive at this time. I want to encourage all of you to breathe. Pacing your breath helps you to pace your mind and pace your thoughts. And especially as we get out of Cancer season and into Leo season, this is so important for the air signs, because we have the planet Mars moving into the sign Gemini. And Gemini, even if you're not a Gemini sun, is going to be an important sign for you because it's part of your elemental triplicity. Gemini rules the mind, the cognition, and everything that is moving through the mind, all the data that we are receiving all the time. There's so much information in the atmosphere. There's so much news. There's so much stimulation coming through screens, through conversations, etc. This is not the only information that's out there. There is an abundance of information in the natural world. Your body is part of the natural world. Your breath is part of the natural world. You breathe in synchrony and reciprocity with plants and trees. There is information all the time to be gleaned from land, from sky, from water, and again, from your inner body, from your emotionality, and from your sentiment. Please make sure that you are balancing your information inputs. Don't become hyper-focused on mental or cognitive information, especially from the end of July to the beginning of September. A lot of you you're like doing a million puzzles in your minds. And I'm going to say that I think you enjoy it. Like, I think that there's an element of puzzling that the air signs, first of all, are really good at, and second of all, enjoy, because you're working with information, you're working with data, and the air element likes to strategize and figure things out and think about things and have a lot of options and see the way that options are connected. So this could be a very stimulating time and potentially a really fun and invigorating time for a lot of you. And it will be a time that is most beneficial, again, to you and to those who you are involved with, the more that you can integrate what is flowing through on the mental, informational levels with the bodily and emotional intelligences. Over the course of Cancer season at Embodied Astrology, we have a lot of offerings to help you do just this. We are also people who love information. Astrology for information lovers is an endless feast. It is a constant banquet of information. It is one of the oldest practices of civilization. Astrology has been developed all over the world for thousands of years. There's so many different techniques. There's so many different ideas. It is an incredible technology. And at Embodied Astrology, we are really invested in the practice of creative application of astrology. We're interested in how this language is a technology for growth and emergence and evolution, not a cookbook of formalized judgments about who you are based on what your signs are, but a playground that we can play in and glean meaning and intelligence and support from thousands of years of ancestors who have offered so much to this practice and to this work. Over the course of the next year, Ramon Parrish and I are co-facilitating a participatory research space at Embodied Astrology. And this research space coincides with an important transit in the air element, which is Jupiter moving through the sign of Gemini. Gemini is a sign that resonates with data, small pieces of information, and the kinds of communication that happen through conversation and sharing. Jupiter can be a symbol of expansive wisdom and order making. Over the course of this project, we are looking at the past in order to plan and strategize for the future, particularly when it comes to organizing, movement work, and activism. Ramon is a longtime devoted ally of the environmental and food justice work. And my interest is in applying astrology in ways that are empowering and activating for social movements. We're inviting you to participate with this project. It is absolutely free to participate with us. We've met a couple of times so far. We're going to continue meeting throughout the year. This is a great opportunity to learn about astrology, to learn about embodied research methods, and to take part in a project that could give a lot to creative activism and movement organizing, as we're looking at how astrology can be an ally and guide for building strategy over the course of the next 25 to 500 years. Ramon and I will also be co-facilitating an on-land retreat in collaboration with Ramon's partner, Michelle Gabriel-Laf-Parrish, who is an amazing organizer and activist working in the realms of environmental and food justice. We're offering this retreat at the end of October in the Rocky Mountain area in Colorado at the Eco Dharma Center. If you're interested in getting off the internet and spending a couple of days with us in the beautiful high up Rocky Mountain scenery, working with your body, working with astrology, working in communion with the land and the sky, and with other beings who are interested in astrology as a technology for evolution and growth, I hope you'll consider joining us. In Cancer season, we have a bunch of workshops coming up that are all exploring how we can work generatively with astrology towards creative and communal efforts. With the full moons every single month, our facilitator, Janata Petrus, offers artistic alchemy sessions. These sessions are always oriented on the axis of the full moon, exploring how this axis and polarity lands and resonates in your chart and how it can open up new areas of creative inquiry and inspiration. Janata will give prompts and practices for you to work with, for you to bring your creative projects to, and also to get inspired and supported and nourished to live creatively, to survive creatively, and to bring creative inspiration and ideation into all areas of your life. These are amazing spaces to also get to know other people who are thinking about how to joyfully and generatively disrupt the status quo. Janata is a award-winning playwright, author, activist, and abolitionist. She works with the erotics of abolition, and a lot of her work centers around joyful resistance to oppression and generative building of community vitality. On June 29th, Sherry Taylor is beginning a new cohort of devotional practice with the planet Saturn. Especially for the Aquarians out there, Saturn is an important symbol for you, as it is the governing planet of Aquarius as well as Capricorn. And for anyone who's interested in being more effective, integrated, grounded, response-able, and supported in their lives, Saturn is definitely a symbol that you want to check in with. In more modern times, Saturn has been kind of pigeonholed into a mythic archetype that feels pretty dry, pretty boring, and full of challenges and obstruction, often related to paternalistic, authoritative energy and patriarchy. But when you look back at mythic origins of Saturn, you'll actually find gender expansive deities of civilization, really creative, queer, and also femme figures. Sherry is recovering and reclaiming these mythic origins of Saturn as the bone mother, as the timekeeper. And she's holding space for folks to develop their own practices of planetary allyship and devotional relationship with planetary energy. Just tuning in with astrology with your horoscopes is awesome, but if you really want astrology to help you in your life, building personal relationships with planetary energies is essential. Sherry is a clinical psychologist, a death doula, a grief worker, and an amazing researcher of archetype and myth. She is holding really exquisite space for you to cultivate and develop your own relationship with Saturn. And you can benefit from this space regardless of any previous experience with astrology. And I guarantee that you will receive so much benefit from this work. Finally, our facilitator, Gabs404, has begun a project called the Nebula Lab with Embodied Astrology. Gabs is a photographer, a documentarian, and a visual storyteller, as well as an astrologer. And their work with Embodied Astrology has explored the intersections between astrology and photography. In the Nebula Lab, they're concentrated on Neptune's transit over the anaretic degree of Pisces, which is the very last degree of the zodiac. And if you tune in with my Cancer season overview, which you can find on your favorite streaming platforms or at embodiedastrology.com, you'll hear me talk a lot about the anaretic degree in Pisces over the course of this season because it's stimulated in some really significant ways. This is a powerful symbol also for this year and these times, as this symbol describes the dissolving of reality and the remaking of the world. I don't know how you feel these days, but I feel like reality is dissolving a little bit more every day. And the practice of bringing imagination into the dissolve and the breakdown is definitely one of the focuses that we have at Embodied Astrology and that Gabs has in the Nebula Lab. In the Nebula Lab, you'll learn about the history of photography, particularly when it comes to editing, altering, and manipulating images, and the ways that images have been used historically to shape culture and world build. Gabs is introducing techniques around photography using artificial intelligence and editing, so you'll be creating your own visual material. And you'll also have the opportunity to work with your chart, with Neptune's natal placement in your chart, as well as Neptune as a symbol that we can map generationally and cyclically, particularly in relationship to the ways that visual culture has evolved. Embodied Astrology has lots of opportunities for working in the intersections of astrology and applying the intellect and the ideas and the information in embodied, creative, and experiential ways. And if this speaks to you, I hope to see you soon in one of our Embodied Astrology spaces. And now, air signs, I am going to offer you some readings for the season ahead. So let's get into it.